Welcome to Clickhole Wednesday, a casual hump day hangout that takes less time to edit than my other shit. Hello ladies and poblanos, welcome back to another whirlwind clickhole, where, if our journey was compared to the alphabet, we start at the letter A and end at Gambian mongoose, because that's how the Wikipedia Clickhole rolls. Do suggest a starting point for next week in the comments below, but in the meantime, light your jack-o'-lantern, make yourself comfy, enjoy the decor, and let's get started with a creepy article I found. Isolated brain. An isolated brain is a brain kept alive in vitro, either by perfusion or by a blood substitute, often an oxygenated solution of various salts, or by submerging the brain in oxygenated artificial cerebrospinal fluid. A related concept, attaching the brain or head to the circulatory system of another organism, is called a head transplant. An isolated brain, however, is more typically attached to an artificial perfusion device rather than a biological body. Brains have been kept alive in vitro for hours, or in some cases days. The brains of invertebrate animals are more easily maintained because they need less oxygen, whereas mammalian brains like ours, for example, don't do as well in this situation. So basically this is a brain that's kept alive, not really attached to anything, which I find insane. This raises so many questions that we have about consciousness, and I find that really creepy to think about because, you know, what's going on in this isolated brain? So it got started in 1812 when this guy, Julien-Jean César Le Gallois, put forth the original idea for resuscitating severed heads through the use of blood transfusion. A few years out of the French Revolution, so of course it was a Frenchman thinking about how to resuscitate severed heads. Ooh, and then Frankenstein happened. Interesting. This arsehole decapitated a dog, waited 10 minutes, attached 4 rubber tubes to the arterial trunks of the head, and injected blood containing oxygen by means of a syringe. 2 or 3 minutes later, voluntary movements of the eyes and muscles of the muzzle resumed. Ew! We may have to click on this arsehole. I need to know why he's decapitating dogs and thinks that's okay. In 1887, Mr. Jean-Baptiste made what appears to be a first recorded attempt to revive the heads of executed criminals by connecting the carotid artery of the severed human head to the carotid artery of a large dog. A partial restoration of brain function was attained. Oh my god, it was a dog with a human head. That is terrifying. Somebody else attached a dog head to another dog, and it was maintained for a few hours. This guy in 1963 did it with a monkey, and attached it to another animal. Unknown. What animal, please? And then in 1993, the whole brain of a guinea pig was captured in vitro and survived around 8 hours, in a very similar state that it would have had while it was alive. No such procedure in humans has ever been reported. Guarantee you somebody nasty did something somewhere. Makes you wonder about the brain. We know so little. Of course, it's a common theme in science fiction, brain in a jar. This is such a romanticized image. This looks like something from probably the 50s. They just made everything so attractive. So that's the isolated brain. Let's figure out where we go from here. Okay, we've gone to Brown-Sequard, because he decapitated a dog for science, and quite frankly I need to know more. He was a Mauritian physiologist and neurologist, who became the first to describe what is now called Brown-Sequard syndrome. He was born to an American father and a French mother. He attended the Royal College in Mauritius and graduated in medicine at Paris. He then went to the US. That's probably when things got weird, let's be real. And there he was appointed to the faculty of the Medical College of Virginia, where he conducted experiments in the basement of the Egyptian building. Conducting experiments in a basement. Does that ever result in anything not creepy? I'm not sure. Okay, he became physician to the National Hospital for the Paralyzed and Epileptic. He stayed there for 5 years, expounding views on the pathology of the nervous system. Then he went back to Paris and was a professor of experimental medicine. He was a controversial and eccentric figure, and is also known for self-reporting at age 72 rejuvenated sexual prowess after subcutaneous injection of extracts of monkey testes. Wow. He injected monkey balls into himself. The endocrinologist Greenblatt wrote that this therapy could not have possibly worked because, unlike the thyroid gland, the testes do not store the hormones they produce, and therefore obtaining a therapeutic dose of testosterone directly from animal glands would require about 1/4 ton of bull's testes. This guy totally owned Brown-Sequard. That is hilarious. Keen observer and experimentalist. Yeah, that's one way to put it. He contributed largely to our knowledge of blood and animal heat, as well as many facts of the highest importance about the nervous system. He was the first scientist to work out the physiology of the spinal cord. You know, the terrible thing about medical discoveries is often the ones that are really prolific were done under very questionable circumstances, such as life. He was one of the first to postulate the existences of substances now known as hormones, secreted into the bloodstream to affect distant organs. His research was published in around 500 essays and papers. He gave rise to much controversy in the case of supposed modification inheritance by his experiments on guinea pigs. In a series of experiments extending over many years, a couple decades really, he showed that a partial section of the spinal cord or a section of the sciatic nerve was followed after a few weeks by a peculiar morbid state resembling epilepsy. The offspring of some of the animals operated on were frequently decrepit. Oh my god, that's disturbing. It doesn't even mention the decapitated dog. That's interesting. Let's stay on the creepy theme. Let's check out Charcot. He's best known for his work on hypnosis and hysteria. He's known as the founder of modern neurology, and his name is associated with at least 15 medical eponyms, including Charcot-Marie tooth disease. What the fuck is that? Hereditary motor and sensory neuropathy, characterized by progressive loss of muscle tissue and touch sensation. Ooh, no, that sounds horrible. We're really sticking on the creepy theme. My god, what a baller jacket though. That is very artful embroidery. This is such a creepy time to decide to go into investigating the brain. The 19th century was, I mean, really up until recently, and arguably it's still creepy, but you know. The tools were not as refined. He was born in Paris, and he worked and taught at a famous hospital for 33 years. He married a rich widow, and he had 2 children, who became a doctor and a famous polar explorer. That's exciting. He named and was the first to describe multiple sclerosis. Oh, now you know. God, these French guys, man. Imagine being so prolific that you were landmark in the understanding of Parkinson's and the first to describe multiple sclerosis, but you're actually famous for something else. In particular, he's best remembered for his work with his hysteria patient Louise Augustine Glaze. However, Marie Blanche Wittman, known as the Queen of Hysterics, was his most famous hysteria patient at the time. Oh my god, there are too many things to click on here, I don't know where we're going to go next. He initially believed that hysteria was a neurological disorder, for which his patients were predisposed by hereditary features. But near the end of his life, he concluded that it was a psychological disease. He began studying hysteria after creating a special ward for non-insane females with hysteroepilepsy. Wasn't hysteria in women mostly just men not understanding women? Women experiencing premenstrual syndrome or menopause were often diagnosed with hysteria, and it was such a BS thing. He argued vehemently against the widespread prejudice that hysteria was rarely found in men. Oh, what do you know? A little bit of early equality. I did not expect that. You've surprised me, Charcot. I thought you were going to be like, all women are crazy. He taught that due to this prejudice, these cases often went unrecognized, even by distinguished doctors, and could occur in such models of masculinity as railway engineers or soldiers. Fancy that. Fancy regular people, regular dudes, not feeling well. What do you know? Charcot's analysis, in particular his view of hysteria as an organic condition which could be caused by trauma, paved the way for understanding neurological symptoms arising from industrial accident or war-related traumas. That's a big deal. Wow, this guy was really prolific, to be honest. God, his legacy takes up my entire screen. I mean, these are some big players in early neurology. That's insane. I'm impressed. Here's everything that's named after him. Good lord, that's a lot. Charcot is mentioned in Bram Stoker's Dracula. Oh, because of the hypnotism. That's interesting. God, there are so many jumping off points here. Interesting there wasn't that much about the hypnosis in this article. I was kind of interested in that. Let's go to Marie Blanche Wittman, the Queen of Hysterics. She was institutionalized in 1877 and was treated by Charcot until his death in 1893. She later became a radiology assistant at the hospital, which resulted in amputations of her arms due to radiation poisoning. Oh my god, this really is a Halloween-themed clickhole. I didn't think it would last this long, the creepy factor, but here we are. 22 months old, she became deaf and mute after suffering seizures, but regained her speech and hearing around age 7. That seems unusual. She scarcely attended school because of difficulty learning and could barely read or write. She was prone to fits of anger, to which her mother responded by throwing water on her. Wow, that's productive. Jeez, no wonder she was mentally ill. At age 12, she was apprenticed to a furrier. That's not gonna help with the trauma. Her attacks worsened, no shit. Did she have to scan animals? Good lord. Wittman losing consciousness and urinating on herself. Yeah, that sounds like trauma. It sounds like she was traumatized. However, these were usually at night, so she kept them hidden. When she was 13, the Fourier would kiss her whenever they were alone and attempted to rape her. Wow. This is a horrible, horrible childhood. Her attacks became more frequent. She began to have tremors. She ran away after attempting to beat her. She stayed with her mother and worked in a laundry from age 14 to 15. During that time, she had relations with a jeweler. Oh, jeez. Then her mother dies. She goes back to the Fourier. Oh my god. And then he rapes her all the time. She entered a hospital as a duty maid. She began another relationship. He would compress her right ovarian region when she had attacks. And then she thought, fuck it, I'm seeking asylum in a convent. I'm done with men. She was dismissed from the convent after tearing a garment during a daytime attack. And then the convent was like, you're too dirty for us. Talk about not being able to get the help you need. Upon admission, she was found to have partial numbness on her right side and loss of sensitivity in her left arm, as well as ovarian sensitivity before attacks. Charcot began treating her with hypnosis. She was also treated with ether and chloroform and amyl nitrite, with some success. Static electricity was used to restore feeling to the right side of her body. So Charcot gave weekly lectures and demonstrations with her. They were frequently attended by dancers and actresses and other performers wishing to see the wide range of emotions. My god, was society that sterile? Though popular, they were criticized for their circus-like showmanship and sexual innuendo. Under hypnosis, Wittman was made to act out theatrics with comedic effect. Charcot, I knew you were up to no good. I gave you too much benefit of the doubt. Jeez, idiot I am. Wittman reportedly never had any attacks after Charcot's death. Really? I feel like that's a huge red flag. Maybe because what happened after he died? What did she do? Let's find out. Okay, a study in 2017 of her symptoms concluded that she likely suffered from psychogenic non-epileptic seizures. Oh, so I was right. So it was basically PTSD. There you have it. Dr. Poobette at your service. So later, after he died, I guess, she returned as an assistant to a photographer who previously photographed her and other patients, and he was appointed head of radiology, and I suppose that's how she ended up working there as an assistant. And then her arms were amputated due to radiation-induced cancer. So it seems like she was dealing with a lot of trauma from male figures in her life, and when she was finally fucking freed from the last one, which was Charcot when he died, she never had a problem again. That's crazy. And then had her arms fucking cut off. God, what a life. Oh, she's depicted in a painting. André Breillat's painting, A Clinical Lesson at the Salpêtrière, where she's used in a demonstration. Oh, there she is fainting. This man is getting a very nice view. That's not a mistake, I assume. Wow, that really looks like him. That's a good portrait from that picture we saw. Diversity and inclusion, everybody. Okay, we can either go check out the other patient, which I'm kind of curious about, or we can stick to the creepy theme. Both are creepy, and go for radiation poisoning. You know, let's mix it up and go for radiation poisoning. Okay. Woohoo! Here we go. Get ready for some gross stuff. The symptoms of acute radiation syndrome, ARS, can start within an hour of exposure and can last for several months. In the following few hours or weeks will be a few symptoms, which later become additional symptoms, after which is either recovery or death. That narrows it down. Notable cases followed the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and Chernobyl. No surprise. God, here's a list of things you never want. Seizures, thyroid cancer risk, inflammation, scarring of the lungs, internal bleeding, loss of white blood cells, and burns. Lovely. There is a handy table of the dose effects of radiation for you, from immediate to latent period to illness to mortality. Duration not applicable for over 30 grays, which is the unit of measurement. Patients die in less than 48 hours. Woo! A person who happened to be less than 1 mile from the atomic bomb Little Boy's hypocenter at Hiroshima was found to absorb about 9.46 grays. So if you were less than 1 mile from the bomb, you got 9.46 grays. That's here. Ooh, that's quite big. Time of onset less than 10 minutes. Heavy diarrhea, severe headache, severe fever, rapid incapacitation, no latent period. You die. That's it, you die. That's a horrible way to go. Here's some lovely blistering of Harry K. Darlian. He was a physicist with the Manhattan Project after he manually stopped a prompt circuit fission reaction. Literally manually, with his hand. He died 16 days after this photo was taken. Ooh, grim. Here are the notable cases. The following table includes only those known for their attempted survival. Ooh, Cecil Kelley at 36? He was dead in 38 hours. Cecil Kelley criticality accident. Criticality accident occurred on December 30th, 1958 at the Los Alamos National Laboratory in Los Alamos, New Mexico. I have been to Los Alamos and it is insane. There are checkpoints you have to go through and the whole vibe is really interesting. They have a cool museum though. It is only one of 10 such events that have occurred outside a nuclear reactor. So it was the third such event that took place in 1958, after events in Tennessee and Yugoslavia. The accident involved plutonium compounds dissolved in liquid chemical reagents. Within 35 hours, it killed chemical operator Cecil Kelley. That's the culprit right there. He was 38 years old, spent more than half of his working experience at Los Alamos. The tank contained residual plutonium resulting from other experiments and applications, with the purpose of recovering it for reuse. So they were mixing the plutonium with other stuff. And what happened is the tank was supposed to contain what is known as a lean concentration, but because there were 2 improper transfers of plutonium waste to the tank, the concentration of the plutonium was nearly 200 times higher, and it was distributed unevenly. So the upper layer at the top of the tank had especially high concentrations, which was already close to criticality before Kelley acted. He switched on the mixer to begin the process of recovering the plutonium, and a vortex began to form, so the denser layer with the tank immediately pushed outward, so it made like a bowl at the top, and the less dense plutonium-rich layer swirled towards the vessel's center. So the corresponding increase in density and neutron reflectivity of the aqueous layer caused the dissolved plutonium to reach and cross the criticality threshold in approximately 1 second. So the mixture essentially resulted in atoms breaking apart in a sustained nuclear chain reaction lasting only 200 microseconds, but releasing a huge burst of neutrons and gamma radiation. Oh, here's a fancy graphic. Oh, so they all suddenly piled in like a black hole, became very dense, and then boop! That's all it took. So there was a bright flash of blue light, followed by the sound of a thud. He actually got off the ground, switched the mixer off, and back on again before running out of the building. Why did he turn it back on? Then found him in a state of ataxia, which is uncoordinated muscle movement, and he was only able to say, "I'm burning up, I'm burning up." For the first hour and 40 minutes, he was incoherent, went through intense waves of vomiting and retching. He then stabilized, was able to talk, have his pulse taken, his blood drawn. He was exposed to a total of 36 grays. A dose of 5 grays almost always kills. He received more than 7 times the adult human lethal dose. His death was inevitable. Oh my god, that's terrifying. Especially since he sort of felt like he was burning, was incoherent, and then stabilized and talked, and then was probably able to process the fact that his death was inevitable. Within 6 hours, his lymphocytes were all but gone. Those are your white blood cells that help your immune system. That's it, 6 hours, done. Immune system over. Bone biopsy performed 24 hours after the incident produced bone marrow that was watery and contained no red blood cells. Oh my god, this sounds like torture! Oh my god. This really is Halloween themed. 35 hours after his initial exposure and after a final bout of intense restlessness, agitation, sweating, becoming ashen-skinned and having an irregular pulse, he died of heart failure. And initially they blamed him. They were like, you know what, it was his fault. Let's move on. His body parts and organs were all kept and studied. Oh man, he had a widow and 2 kids. She did not know that he was still alive when he'd been irradiated and only learned of his death afterwards. Oh my god. Well, yeah, what can you do? Assuring her verbally, mistake, get it in writing, that they would provide her with financial compensation for her husband's death, they convinced her not to file any lawsuit. The only compensation she received was a lifetime level position working for the lab itself at near poverty levels until she had to retire for health reasons. No way, that is depressing. Like I said, this is a mistake. If somebody promises you something verbally, make sure it's backed up in writing. That is the only way to go. Oh, poor woman, she had no idea and she was devastated. You get to work where your husband died at near poverty levels. That's your gift for your trouble. Horrific. But then they filed a lawsuit in 1996 that alleged the misconduct of doctors, the hospital, and the Los Alamos administration in removing organs from the deceased without consent from next of kin over a span of many years. Oh, so they continued to do it? Oh my god, that's disgusting. There were many more performed by others in later years at Los Alamos. How many people died there? Ugh! During a deposition for the case, Lushbaugh, when asked who gave him the authority to take 8 pounds of organs and tissue from Kelley's body, said, "God gave me permission." Don't think that holds up in court. That does not hold up in court. Class action suit was settled by defendants for about $9.5 million and an additional $800K in 2007. None of the defendants admitted any wrongdoing. Let's see what else is going on at Los Alamos. There it is. Nice $3 billion budget, not shabby. Los Alamos National Lab, initially organized during World War II for the design of nuclear weapons as part of the Manhattan Project. Oh yeah, they had like a village there. I wonder if it'll go through the village. So essentially, the general wanted a lab at an isolated location to keep scientists away from the populace, because this was kind of a big deal to be working on atomic bombs. And it was Oppenheimer, who was the director of Project Y, who'd spent time in the area and suggested Los Alamos. All the scientists and their families actually lived there, and you can visit the old town where they lived. They still have there's like a community hall and stuff you can just walk into. Ooh, in August 2017, the improper storage of plutonium could have triggered another criticality accident. And staff failed to declare the failure as required by procedure. No! Oh my god, so close. I don't know that it's worth the paycheck to work in one of these places. I don't know that I would bother. Maybe I'm a coward, but I can't imagine being like, yeah, I'm gonna work in a plutonium facility. Nothing can go wrong, right? Around the lab's 43 square mile property are 2,000 dump sites which have permanently contaminated the environment. Nice! Good management. Excellent. In recent years, the lab has developed a major research program in systems biology modeling. The aim is to develop efficient algorithms and other mathematical tools with the goal of computer modeling of biological systems. So is that like simulated organs or DNA or something? Yes, that's exactly what that is. Virtual liver, brain model, protein folding. What? The Blue Brain Project is an attempt to create a synthetic brain by reverse engineering the mammalian brain down to the molecular level. This project was founded in 2005, and it was started to study the brain's architectural and functional principles. They also have a virtual liver, electronic trees, interesting, ecosystem models. Yeah, I've seen a lot of those. There's some people on YouTube who do sort of ecological models, which are kind of interesting. Models in ecotoxicology and modeling of infectious diseases. How thematic. Let's try Blue Brain Project. Swiss research initiative, as we know. Progress. Let's see the latest. Idan Segev, one of the computational neuroscientists working on it, gave a talk titled Brain in the Computer. What did I learn from simulating the brain? I appreciate the simplification of your work. That's a very simple way to put what he did. He mentioned that the whole cortex for the mouse brain was complete. Wow. And virtual experiments would begin soon. That was last year. Oh, there's a 10-part documentary being made. Each installment will explore the year-long workings of the project. Planned to be released in 2020. Well, must be delayed. That's unfortunate. Let's see. See also... bunch of good stuff here. Project Joshua Blue. Project under development by IBM. Focuses on advancing the artificial intelligence field by designing and programming computers to emulate human mental functions. This is a danger zone, man. A model of Joshua Blue's learning pattern has been created, similar to how young children learn human traits through interacting with their surroundings. Joshua Blue will acquire knowledge through external stimuli present in its environment. IBM believes that if computers evolved to learn in this way, and then comprehend and analyze the knowledge gained using reason, computers could begin to possess a mind of sorts. Do we want that? Not sure we want that. It would be capable of demonstrating complex social behaviors similar to those of humans. Yikes. Wait, I skipped the beginning. So the goal, according to researchers, is to achieve cognitive flexibility that approaches human functioning. They're aiming to design Joshua Blue to think like a human, mainly in terms of emotional thought. Currently, the vast majority of computers and computational systems run off an input-output model. Through Project Joshua Blue, IBM hopes to develop computers to the point where they are asking questions and searching for answers themselves, rather than relying on an external input. The artificial intelligence knowledge gained from Project Joshua Blue could potentially be used to create social robots that work and act very much like humans do. They could take over tasks too dangerous for us to engage in, even if they require many different decisions to be made along the way, and would allow for robots to think for themselves. Yeah, that's unsettling. That is very unsettling. Do they know how unsettling this is? Because I feel like this article is written without concern for the future. I think this is a good note to end on, actually. We started with the isolated brain and ended up at, well, an AI brain, really. We kind of came in a weird loop. On the way, we encountered hysterical ladies, or maybe not so hysterical ladies, but there you have it. Some interesting doctor figures, some lab experiments in proper Halloween fashion with some gruesome, gory details, and we've ended up on what reads sort of like a horror story, so that's appropriate. Good luck sleeping, and happy Halloween. If you enjoyed this Clickhole, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Lets me know you're enjoying the stuff, and that makes me really happy, and I really enjoy sharing this stuff. So, until next Wednesday, stay tuned for a Halloween special on Saturday, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!